This is TWiT.
As I'm explaining why the industry is virtually certain that we are witnessing the return of DarkSide, keep that in mind when we hear the guy from BlackMatter being interviewed claiming that that's not the case. Okay, so as we know, an affiliate of the Ransomware as a Service group, which was at the time known as DarkSide, and was is the operative word here, made what turned out to be a big mistake by attacking critical U.S. infrastructure in the now famous Colonial Pipeline attack. This shut down the U.S.'s largest fuel pipeline, causing fuel shortages across the eastern seaboard of the U.S., and gained what I think you could fairly say would be unwanted attention to themselves. Shortly afterward, DarkSide's ransomware operation suddenly shut down. They lost access to their servers, and at least some of their ill-gotten funds, their cryptocurrency, was seized. We later learned that the FBI had somehow recovered 63.7 bitcoins of the approximately 75, which was the $4 million ransom payment made by Colonial Pipeline. So a chunk of that was recovered. Since ransomware, when it's done right, can generate so much money, no one thought for a moment that the culprits had learned their lesson and had decided, to update their LinkedIn profiles and start interviewing for jobs in the Russian IT sector. What we all thought was that they would return under another name, probably with at least the intention of not again stepping in such a big pile of trouble. And sure enough, a recent detailed forensic analysis of the cryptographic algorithms being employed by an apparent newcomer that has named themselves BlackMatter, and that will be the interview that we share at the end, suggests that BlackMatter is actually DarkSide 2.0. However, since this new group is soliciting initial access brokers themselves directly, it may be that they've scrapped their previous affiliate model, at least for the time being, probably in the interest of maintaining more control and thus preventing a recurrence of the disaster that shut them down last time. So this new BlackMatter group is already actively attacking victims and purchasing network access from other threat actors to launch new attacks. Over the weekend, Bleeping Computer reported that multiple victims have been targeted by DarkMatter, with ransom demands ranging between $3 and $4 million, and that one victim had already paid a $4 million ransom to delete data that had been exfiltrated from their network and to receive both a Windows and a Linux ESX, that's that VMware ESX decryptor. So why do we believe that this is the work of DarkSide rebranded? Over this past very busy weekend, MSciSoft's Fabian Wosar, who we've been talking about lately because he's been very active in this area, he tweeted, he said, after looking into a leaked BlackMatter decryptor binary, I am convinced, he tweeted, that we're dealing with a DarkSide rebrand here. Crypto routines are an exact copy, pretty much for both their RSA and Salsa 20 implementation, including their usage of a custom matrix. Okay, so what does he mean by that? Salsa 20 is a symmetric stream cipher, and as we recall from all the work we did talking about crypto years ago, what that means is that it XORs any data it's given either for encryption or decryption, with the output of its cryptographically strong pseudo-random bit stream generator. As we know from our previous talk about this, and as counterintuitive as it may seem, simply inverting random bits of a plaintext, which is what XORing does, essentially XORing the plaintext with noise, totally scrambles that plaintext to yield a cryptographically strong ciphertext. Essentially, if you XOR something that has meaning with noise, you get noise as a result. And when that noisy stuff, that ciphertext, is later re-XORed with the same random bit stream, in other words, re-inverting exactly the same inverted bits, naturally, the original plaintext is restored. That's Salsa 20. Okay, so Salsa 20's internal state, that is the data that it stores and grinds on in order to produce this cryptographically strong pseudo-random bit stream, it's held as 16 32-bit quantities. They are conceptually arranged in a 4x4 matrix. The formal Salsa 20 spec specifies how those 16 values are to be initialized. This is specified sort of to create a standard implementation for inter-Salsa 20 implementation compatibility, even though technically it's arbitrary. So interlaced through 4 of those 16 32-bit values is the 16-character string expand space 32-byte space lowercase k. That's all lowercase. Expand space 32-byte space k. In other words, just some constant stuff. This is Dan Bernstein's construction of he did Salsa 20. 2 of the 16 32-bit values are used to specify a stream position. So it's sort of a way of starting in different locations. And of course, since they're 32-bit values and there's 2 of them, that's a 64-bit position, so plenty big. Another 2 are nonces, and the remaining 8 32-bit values are used to specify the key. So that's the formal spec. DarkSide, okay, the original DarkSide blows all that off and simply initializes that entire block with random data. It then encrypts that Salsa 20 initial state matrix with a public RSA key, which is appended to the end of the encrypted file. Fabian said that this implementation of Salsa 20 was previously only ever seen by DarkSide's crypto. And now this approach has resurfaced unchanged, being used by BlackMatter. Additionally, DarkSide's implementation of a 1024-bit RSA was also unique to their code, and BlackMatter also uses exactly the same unique implementation. So, yeah, deep down in the crypto, they're identical. When we also consider that both groups use similar language and similar color schemes on their public and dark websites, evidence that also they have a similar lust for media attention, and that the new, in quotes, BlackMatter group is going to great pains this time to note that it will not target the oil and gas industry, and they specify pipelines and oil refineries. It seems about as certain as it could get that DarkSide has returned, and at the end of this podcast, as I said, we're going to hear from a member of the group and see what they think of themselves. They're not the only ones. I wanted to also note, because as things happen in the future, we'll be referring to these gangs. The Doppelpaymer group has renamed themselves Grief, which is what they give their victims. It's just a simple rebranding. There's really no big news about the group beyond the observation that, just sort of for the record, Doppelpaymer has become Grief. None of these groups say that they don't declare that they've been rebranded and renamed, but everything that they're doing is the same in the same way. They don't rewrite their code from scratch. They don't retranslate from their native Russian into English from scratch, probably because it's difficult to get English that they like. So, to anyone who's observing these guys from the outside, we could still see you. We know who you are. You changed your name, but nothing else changed.
Isn't that cute?
Yes, they had in this case, both groups had different looking colored CAPTCHAs, but the code underneath was custom and identical.
Right.
So, did you forget to change anything under the surface?
Why change anything that works?
Yes, exactly. And finally, Avedon has also become Heron, Haron. So, essentially, I think what we're seeing here is there's been such a mess created by the Revil attacks and the DarkSide attacks that everybody, even if they weren't attackers, everyone thought, well, everybody else is changing their name. We should too. And so, they're doing this rebranding. So from a podcast standpoint, it's a little tricky because, suddenly we're going to be talking about apparently new ransomware gangs. Not so much. They're just, same gang with a different name.